All right. Okay, so I'm recording this video now. Okay, so this, you have this quadratic equation right here. And you need to use the quadratic formula. So that's something that you need to remember. You know, x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2a. So that's the quadratic formula. You need to remember the quadratic formula. And you just, like you can write it down so you have access to it until you memorize it. But it's very important that you do that because if you miss one sign or anything, it's going to mark it as wrong. So you want to make sure that you have the formula correct. All right. So that would be the step number one, is to have the formula. So I'm going to write here step number one. Step number two would be to determine which one is B, A, and C. So in the quadratic formula, we have A. These numbers are the coefficients. So B plus C equals 0. And so then what you need to know is you need to determine which one is A. In this case, A equals 5. You see, because we're taking the coefficients. All right. A equals 5, B equals 3, and C finally equals 1. All right. So that once you have determined the coefficients, you just plug in what you have in the formula. All right. So x equals, and well, this, yeah, I'll do this part here and then I can delete if I don't. All right, so look, here you have minus b, so you need to write 3 minus 3 because you're just substituting b with 3. Then plus or minus the square root of b squared. So you need to square 3 again here, and minus 4 times what? A, which is 5, times C, which is 1. Right? And all of this is divided by 2. Sorry about that. By 2a, and a equals 5. Okay, so that would be substituting everything would be step number 3. Step number 4 would be then to simplify the expression. All right. Step number 4 is to simplify the expression. So this part you can leave it as it is, and like the problem is asking you, you'll see later that you don't have to like take it to the last steps. You can leave it pretty much. There's only one more step after this. So this you leave it as it is for now. And here you simplify it inside. All right, so I'll do this step here. You can skip it later when you get used to this. So 3 times 3 equals 9. Minus 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 1 is 20. And remember, guys, you can 100% use a calculator here. You should use a calculator. It's more convenient to use a calculator so that you don't get some problem wrong just because you didn't add it correctly. Okay, so then finally down here, 2 times 5 equals 10. All right. So then here, you're almost done. Okay. So step number 5. Let me write step number 5 in yellow. Step number 5, you're almost done. So here what you need to do is to further simplify. And here you have, whenever you see a denominator divided by the whole thing, you can actually like break down the denominator into like 3, -3 divided by 10, and this number here divided by 10 again. You can just break it down, as you'll see that they're doing here on the left. So what you do here is, and whenever you have this number, like a negative number here, this number, you can write it down like in the middle of the equation of, this sign here. So you would write 3, like -3. So you put the negative sign here, divided by 10. You see what I'm doing? I'm taking 10 and putting it in this way. And then you do plus or minus this number here. And so here we have 9 minus 20 equals minus 11, right? You can do it with your calculator. 9 minus 20 equals minus 11, right? So you have here minus 11 divided by 10. Now you guys know, okay, here we need to do a further simplification. All right, and I'm going to write this in red here. Now you guys know that you cannot have the square root of a negative number. That's why we have imaginary numbers. And you know that the square root of -1 equals I. All right, so you just need to substitute that. And you write, whenever you have the square root of negative any number, so what you need to do is, this equals the square root of -1 times the square root of negative of 11. And then this, you know that this number right here is the same as this number, you see? And so you just write the square root of 11, and you write the I outside. It's very important, guys, that you write this I here outside this root. You need to make sure that you hit the tab or whatever you need to, so that this number is not inside the square root, because that wouldn't make sense. Okay? It wouldn't make sense to the computer or in math. So the square root of 11, I. All right? And so that's what you need to do to further simplify this. You have x, I'm going to write it here in this little squared. All right? X equals -3 over 10 plus or minus the square root of 11I divided over 10. And that would be the final answer. In this case, you can check. Which one is it? Well, you have this one. Look, B. 3, the -3 over 10, -3 over 10 plus or minus the square root of 11 over 10, the square root of 11 over 10, I. And so here, this number, you can either write it here. It would be correct to write it here or outside. That's totally fine. If you write it, they're writing it here outside of the fraction, you can do that too. That's even better. Just don't write it inside the square root sign. All right, let me stop this recording and then we'll have questions.